Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is an NPC Classic physique athlete. Today's guest is Austin Espy. Austin, welcome to the podcast, man.
Thanks for having me on, man. I'm super excited.
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to get into some good conversation here in a minute, Austin. Before we get there, I just got a couple questions I like to ask all of my guests just to kind of keep the continuity of each podcast. So I'd like to know, who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time?
Jay Cutler. It's the comeback for me. As much as I'm a classic physique competitor, I love the open. I just love the open. I don't think I'm built for open, but I love the open. I think it's super inspiring, and it's just the muscle, man. I know how hard that is to put on, and you just got to respect it. You know what I mean? So, honestly, a lot of the people right around that time where Jay Cutler came back and, the quads. Sorry, one second. Of course, somebody's trying to mess.
It's all good, man. It's real life.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go. Perfect. So Jay Cutler, the quad stomp, Ronnie Coleman, obviously that whole rival was really cool. Brought a lot of light to bodybuilding. And I would really like to see it come back to that. And I think it is a little bit. So Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman, obviously, their CDs, I actually had their CDs. So a lot of the people in my generation coming up don't even know about the CDs, but I do. My parents didn't have a lot of money, so we had CDs and stuff like that. We didn't really have all of the new technology. So definitely watched a lot of that stuff. I actually had magazines. A lot of people don't even know about the magazines, but I love the magazines. Current bodybuilders, definitely excited to see Regan come back. He was a huge inspiration for me. Kind of disappointed he's not competing this year, but also at the same time, I'm like, I think it's going to be cool because he's going to look totally different next year. I think he's still with Milos, 99% sure. So that's going to be awesome to watch him come back and hopefully place top 10. I think he will. And I think that'll give him the confidence to kind of push further and push harder the next off season. So classic physique competitors, like Lee Labrada. I mean, I know there wasn't classic physique back then, but Lee Labrada is just one of my favorite posers. As you might know, I love posing. That's my thing. Lee Labrada is definitely up there. I love Logan Franklin style posing. He has an amazing physique, and honestly, that's more the physique I'm chasing rather than a bigger classic physique competitor. I want to have that flow. I'm with Cameron Cheek, so JT's physique is absolutely nuts. I really like JT's physique. I like how he's not giant, but he's just so aesthetic, and he knows how to flow on stage. He's very in control of his body. And same thing with Jarek. Jarek Crew. I think that's his last name, but he's really good, really in tune with his body. A lot of my people that I look up to, a lot of people that I idolize aren't actually super famous. So I like the guys who actually care about the sport. They didn't necessarily rely on genetics to get there. And I'm not trying to diss on anybody, but there is a lot of people in classic and a lot of people in, physique and classic that, they got to where they did for a lot of it was genetics. If I'm trying to make that clear, doesn't discredit them or anything. I know there's hard work put in, but I feel like a lot of classic physique dudes, they go pro with genetics, and then they're like, shoot, I gotta work hard now. My genetics got me my pro card. Now I gotta work hard. So a lot of the people I look up to are just the people I see in the gym. Honestly, the people that I know work hard that don't get recognition. Those are the people I look up to. Yeah, I mean, there's not really a bunch of names per se. I really respect people who work really hard, not on camera, if that makes any sense.
Certainly does. I'm 35, so I grew up in a generation pre-social media, and bodybuilding, as I say all the time on the podcast, was just a completely different thing. I think the fitness industry and bodybuilding has kind of mixed now because of a lot of different reasons. One of the main ones being social media, and bodybuilding isn't fitness. They're two different things, right? So anyways, I definitely get where you're coming from, and I respect that, Austin. Now, why don't you let us know at what age you started lifting weights, And why did you start lifting weights at that specific age, Austin?
Yeah, so I don't actually know the exact age, believe it or not. I think it was like 15 or 15 and a half when I started lifting. So it's pretty young. I've heard of a lot of people lifting way earlier than that though. So it shouldn't shock any people, but it's actually kind of interesting why I got into it because it was such a weird way to get into it. So let's go way back to like when I was was like playing football in like seventh or eighth grade at like Pop Warner football or something. And I hated working. I hated anything to do with exercise. I was that I was like shredded when I was young. And then I went through like this fat stage when I was like sixth, seventh, eighth grade. And then I was just like, I'm so sick of being like fat, like chubby. You know what I mean? Like the kid chubby. And I was like, I'm so sick of this. So I decided just to just get shredded. And I didn't know anything about nutrition, anything about working out. And, you know, I'm like a freshman in high school, I think. And I'm just like, I want to have abs. I want to have abs. I want to be shredded. I don't care what it takes. So I starved myself. I literally starved myself when I ate iceberg lettuce with ketchup on it. And I had scoops of peanut butter. That's what my interpretation of getting a six pack was. And I mean, it worked. I was 230 something pounds when I started this like starvation mode pretty much. And like 4 months, 5 months later, I was 167 pounds. So I lost like almost 60 pounds of straight fat and muscle. And then I looked like a twig. So I was like, I got to go somewhere from here. I would say that was right around 15 years old, 14 and a half, 15 years old, where I was like really skinny. And if you go look on my Instagram and my YouTube way back when, you can kind of see where that was. That's right around when I started my Instagram, I think. And speaking of idols, I got on Instagram and I saw Bradley Martin. I saw, they weren't even bodybuilders. Bradley Martin. I saw Callum Von Moger. I saw Steve Cook was big back then, I think. And it was just like all the OGs. And like, I was like, I gotta lift heavy. Like all these guys are lifting heavy. They're trying to PR, like, you know, 1 rep, 2 rep, 3 rep. And I was like, let's do it. So I just decided to blow up. And, you know, I wasn't even thinking about PEDs at the time. I was just I didn't even take pre-workout back then. I was like, you know, we got to do it. I was just like, you know, hard work. It was just hard work, and just like shoving food down my throat. And then I got fat again. So it's just a matter of balancing, trying to not get fat and, you know, stay lean, but also put on muscle. So yeah, definitely pretty young. About 15 years old is when I started like lifting. And the reason I started lifting was because first of all, I was super lean and need to put on size, but I was actually a lifeguard, and I was a lifeguard. I wasn't actually legally supposed to be a lifeguard back then. I like wasn't old enough. Um, so my mom knew the owner of the YMCA there, the manager, and she actually gave me a job and she paid me. So I was like, it's kind of cool, but my mom wanted me to work. And you know, I wanted to work. I wanted to make my own money because, like I said, my parents didn't have a lot of money. So um, I would have this hour and a half gap because I couldn't drive yet after I got done working. And I was like, I would go play chess with the chess players, and I'd go like shoot like hoops if nobody was there because I was like super introverted. And I was like, you know what? I need to start lifting weights. Like I have all this time, and I'm not doing anything with it. So I can take this hour and a half and go try to work out. So I just started lifting weights at the Y when I was like 15, and I just fell in love with it instantly. I got like a pump for the first time, and I'm like, whoa. I was like, bro, this is nuts. I was like, I got to get more of this, and I need this every single day. So yeah, 15 years old, 15 and a half is when I really started to like lift like religiously, and like learn about splits and learn about like rest days, you know, which we all have a hard time doing, but
Cool. Awesome, man. Love it. Okay, now let's talk a little bit more about your upbringing, Austin, your childhood. So you mentioned you guys didn't necessarily have a ton of money growing up. So do you have any siblings? Talk about where you actually grew up, like what state, and then just paint that picture a little bit more of your childhood for us. You mentioned playing a little bit of sports, things like that. What was Austin like when you were younger?
yeah, it was totally different. So I'll try to keep this like somewhat short, but still give some detail. Yeah, so basically my parents, I got to start at the very beginning, but I'll keep it short. So basically I was born in Japan. So I was born in Japan on a military base. My mom was in the Air Force. My dad was in the Marines. Um, they had me, they split up. They got a divorce. And I didn't see my dad until I was like 7 or 8, when I could actually remember. I think I saw him when I was like 5, but I couldn't remember it. Um, but I was living with my mom. We flew back to California from Japan, and that's when I was about 2.5. And then I grew up in Redding, California, this small town, North California, and it's like right on the Oregon border. So it's like trees, mountains. It's not what you would expect California to be like. And everybody looks at the beaches and stuff. It was definitely not that. It was like you pay the taxes from California, but you don't get the California vibes, if that makes any sense. So um, grew up in Northern California. Fitness industry is pretty much non-existent. Everybody's pretty out of shape there. And it's a very much a retirement town. So there's a lot of old people, not a lot of like high energy in terms of like, ambition, and not a lot of, places to go, if that makes any sense. So grew up in a pretty chill town where there wasn't much motivation. However, I had these CDs, I had these magazines. I I'd go on the internet when I had access to it, and I would watch like motivational videos and stuff like that, work on motivation. And pretty much my mom raised me as a single mom until I was about like 5 or 6, I think. So about 2 or 3 years by herself. And then she started dating one of her best friends from high school, which is my stepdad now. So basically, he raised me as like my dad. I remember him as my dad. I don't remember like my biological dad really being my dad. So kind of just switch spots there. So my stepdad and my mom raised me until I was like 16 or 17. I came really independent after starting to train and stuff. The gym teaches you things that like you're never going to learn in real life, when you don't have the gym. Especially the sport, it's very expensive. You got to figure out a way to mature pretty fast to make the money to be able to do the sport, or else you're not gonna be able to do it. I didn't have any sponsors back then or anything, so everything was just out of pocket. You know how that is. So yeah, pretty much just raised me from there. Very supportive. Everything I did, my parents were very supportive. They didn't have a lot of money, but they were extremely supportive, which I really appreciate, until I started bodybuilding. So, and I started bodybuilding, they weren't about it. I did my first show when I was about, I think I was like 18 when I did my first show. Yeah, I was 18 years old. I think it was 2017 or 2018. But sports, basically, when I grew up, I played soccer. That was like my main sport. Basically, I was a runner. Like I said, I used to starve myself, and I also used to run like 8 miles a day. So I used to get up in the morning before school, before the bus picked me up, and I used to run like 2 or 3 miles. And then I used to get on the bus, go to school, do my thing at school, come back at home, and then I would go straight home. I said, screw homework. And I just went on a run because I couldn't focus on anything else until I got my workout, my exercise out of the way. So I've always kind of prioritized that, if it makes any sense. And I think it has something to do with like where I am now, is like I literally can't do anything else until like I work out, or like, I do what I need to do to better myself with this sport. So I prioritize it above everything else in life, which is a good and a bad thing. But I used to like run a bunch, so soccer was like perfect for me. My mom pushed soccer on me when I was pretty young, so I started playing soccer when I was like 6 or 7, and then I played it all the way through. I think I played it for like 12 years. When I was like 16 or 17 is my last year, and I was playing with like 20-year-olds. So I was like really good at soccer. Um, but I just started getting into lifting. I played football too. What else did I try? I tried tennis. I played tennis for like 2 years. So it was pretty much like the exact opposite of a bodybuilder. Like you don't see a bodybuilder playing soccer or tennis. I think most bodybuilders come from like wrestling or like football. So it's like definitely different there, but I was very athletic. So I was very easy to pick up on like form when it came to the gym. I was just very in tune with my body, and I had very good my muscle connection just from all the drills we used to do and stuff like that. So everything came pretty easy to me. But that's pretty much my upbringing. My parents ended up splitting up about like 8 months ago. So that's pretty much it, honestly.
Okay. Now, what was school like for you, Austin? Did you enjoy school or not so much?
So me and school didn't get along very well. So I got good grades, but I just didn't like school. I've never liked school. I went to school so my parents would get off my back. That's really why I did it. I never did any homework. I would rely on the test to get good grades because I feel like I pick up things pretty fast. So it's like, I don't have to necessarily like do the homework and study. I feel like I just kind of understand things because I'm like very good at like picking it up and like understanding what's going on. So I'm just like, I did the homework sometimes. Most of the time I didn't. I'd pass with like B's or C's. And then my dad, my biological dad, not the best guy. He like promised me to buy me a Camaro if I got like a 4.0 for 2 years before I graduated high school. So I ended up getting pretty good grades the last 2 years of high school. He never gave me it. So I was like, he actually never talks to me anymore, but it motivated me to do better in school. So I do understand why school is so important. I just don't necessarily agree with teaching all these different things. I think they should hone in on what that one person is passionate about. So, I just didn't really understand school. And I've always had this kind of like mindset where I just kind of know that something's not right with like the administration and like the government and everything like that. So I just kind of always had that in my subconscious. So my parents were also entrepreneurs. So it's very much pushed on me that I need to be an entrepreneur and do my own thing. So I've always been kind of thinking outside the box and not really in that 9 to 5 mindset, if that makes any sense. So that kind of like paved the way for me a little bit as well. But school, it wasn't really a priority to me at all. If anything, before the gym, the sports were. I used to play video games all the time. I actually got back into it on my free time. It's just relaxing for me. But like I said, I was very introverted. I ended up being like class clown for a few years, but that's just because like I was like begging for attention because like I felt like the reason I got in shape was to get attention. The reason like I wanted all this attention, but I was an introvert, so it just didn't really go together. So the gym was just perfect for me because it was like a way to focus on myself, but I know everybody in the gym is subconsciously like, oh wow, he's making progress, or like, oh wow, he's strong. It was like my way of getting recognition without having to actually talk to people, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely, man. Okay, now before we kind of dive into the bodybuilding talk, when you were a teenager, when you were in high school, Austin, did you have any thoughts of like a career or a job? I know you said your parents were entrepreneurs and they kind of pushed that on you, but were you thinking about what you kind of wanted to do when you grew up or when you got out of high school outside of the fitness stuff, or did the fitness stuff kind of consume you at that young age? And that's kind of where your mindset was as a teenager?
Yeah, so I'm gonna say this. Like, I'm not trying to be like self-centered or like arrogant or anything, but I'm just gonna tell you guys how I thought about myself when I was younger. I kind of lived on like this high horse in my head because like I just was always trying to push myself to like the next level, and I knew that I wasn't in an environment where that was gonna push me. The environment wasn't gonna push me, so I needed to push myself, and I was very aware of that from a very young age. And I knew, since I was aware of that I knew I was bound to do good things as long as I kept my head on straight. So I always knew I was going to do something, and I still know I'm going to have a big impact in the industry somehow. However, I didn't know what that was, but the one thing I was good at and I knew I could have a potential in was bodybuilding. So I never actually thought about like bodybuilding until I was like 17 or 18. But throughout the first few years of high school, I was like, I have like a really good physique. Like, and like, this is before I even touched anything. I was like, I have a really good physique. Like, I can make money off this. Like, everybody's telling me to be a model. Like, everybody's telling me to do this and do that. And it's just like when that many people are telling you at a young age that you need to do something, and like you see it in yourself, you can't. You just kind of take that and run with it. You know what I mean? So everything, every single thought, every single cent that I made, everything went straight towards the gym and like trying to better myself. And I got very obsessed with it. And I don't think I've ever changed. Like, I'm still obsessed with it. But it was at the point where I would like bail on family things that I could do so I could go to the gym, or I would skip school. I would literally skip classes so I could go to the gym. I thought I needed to go to the gym right then. Like, it was weird. It was like I was so obsessed with it. And my mom would get calls saying that I left school, and it was because I was at the gym. So it was like I became like extremely obsessed with it from a young age. So Um, I really just like, I didn't really like think in the future. I just kind of knew I was going to make it somehow and I was going to be okay if I just kept doing what I knew I loved. So that's kind of where I am. I've always been like a one day at a time type of person when it comes to like my goals and my dreams long term. Like I don't really think long term. I think like within the year, but I don't really think like super long term like that. I just kind of know that if I give everything I can into what I love, that it's there's something's got to come out of it. And if it doesn't, then whatever. Like at least I tried.
Right. Awesome, man. Okay. So let's talk about start getting into bodybuilding then. So you said your first competition was at 18. Why don't you walk us through that? Did you have a coach? If so, what was that like? Did you prep on your own? Just talk about that first competition, please.
Yeah, so great experience. Amazing experience. My first show, actually, I couldn't have asked for anything more out of my first show. I mean, it's a first show. I had no idea what to expect. Like I said, I came from a very small town where like this was not a thing. Like we have a local show in Reading, but it's I don't want to like it's bad. It's bad. It's like people they literally lose weight and they have like a weight loss transformation and then they step on stage. That's the type of competition it is. It's more like a wow, you lost weight and you're healthier type of thing. So nothing against that. It's just I knew that I needed more. So everybody was telling me to do the regional show and I'm like, I don't want to do the regional show. Like I know I'm not going to get anything out of it. Like I'm going to go step on stage and like what get known in my town of like 50,000 people. I'm like I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to like I need to get somewhere with this, and if I'm going to spend time, money at 17 to 18 years old on this prep, I need to be able to get a return out of it of some sort. So I guess what I'm talking about, I was always like thinking about the next step, even when I was young. So I was like, I need to do an LA show. I just, for some reason, I thought I needed to do like some show in some big city. So I was like, it's either going to be LA, Las Vegas, or Florida. I don't know why I thought I was going to do one in Florida, but I was like, I need to do an NPC show somewhere big. And so I picked LA because it's in California and it's like, it's a 9 hour drive. We couldn't afford plane tickets. So I was actually going to drive there by myself. But my parents, and because I'll get into that in a minute, my parents didn't support it until recently. But I planned to go to LA by myself. I was going to pay for everything by myself. Actually, I did pay for everything myself. And, I worked like my lifeguard job to pay for it. So basically, I hired a coach. He gave me a pretty good deal because I was young and I think he saw my potential. So he wanted to, and he's a local coach. So you get this like kid with like potential in a town of 50,000 people, you're going to say yes, whether he pays full price or not. And basically, yeah. So I pretty much, not to mention, I tore my pec off the bone about 6 months before that prep. So I was benching, I was very strong. I was benching 415 pounds and I was like 18 years old. I hit 415 and then I was like, all right, we should probably stop here. And then it was a PR. And then I dropped it down to 315 pounds at 3 plates and I was repping it. And on the 6th rep, I came down and the whole thing snapped off my humerus. So that was bad. I had to pretty much wait 2 months to get surgery. I was hoping that my tendon was still alive. And then, long story short, that took about 2 months to recover. That's when I started really diving into like PEDs and stuff like that on how to like recover right, and more for like getting over muscle fatigue and like making sure you don't hurt yourself in the future, injury prevention. That's why I really started to research it, because like when I was 17 and a half, I started taking PEDs and then I stopped after I tore my pec, obviously. And then I got back into it during show prep. So I hired this coach 6 months after this pec tear, 4 months after the surgery. And basically he was like, we're going to get on all these drugs. And I'm like, all right, it's what we got to do. I'm like, screw it. So I didn't know any different. I didn't care to research it. My mom was skeptical at the time about me taking stuff, and she knew that I did because like I told her, but she asked me and I just told her. I didn't care if she knew. However, basically, I mean, we took a lot of stuff. I'm not going to get into like dosages and stuff like that, but like we took a lot of stuff for my first show, And I mean, I placed fifth in open, not open like open bodybuilding, but like open classic. And like I placed fifth place, and there was like, I think there was like 22 dudes or something. And I was 18 and I had just torn my pec. So I wasn't even training chest. So, I mean, it was definitely an amazing experience in terms of like, it boosted my ego a lot. And I was like, wow, I got fifth place. Like I just tore my pec. Like in my subconscious, I was like, I'm never going to be able to bodybuild because I just tore my pec and it's like the front of you. So I was like, you know, it's a very scary thing. And so seeing that I could do that well at a show, my first show with, I think that was like a 10-week prep, you know, was pretty good. And then, yeah, that's pretty much how my first show went. Like I said, it was more of like a recovery process for the first half, and then, you know, hitting it hard into the show. My coach was like very on and off about communication, very just like, yeah, take this, switch this, you know, we're gonna cut carbs. And I'm just like, I look at it now that working with Cameron, and I'm like, this was a terrible coach. Like, no offense to like that coach, but I hope he switched the way he coaches now, because it was terrible. But yeah, that's pretty much my first show experience. Like I got everything I needed and more out of it, and it motivated me to do better my second show. So
Excellent. Okay, now I do want to discuss, since you brought it up. We don't talk about it a ton on the podcast, but since you brought up PEDs and
yeah,
you started at such a young age, I do want to touch on this for a minute, Austin. So, how old are you right now?
23.
Okay, you're 23. At this age and stage of your life, looking back, do you wish that you would have waited longer to start PEDs, or are you absolutely okay with the age that you started? Like, walk us through that a little bit. And I want you to talk about this because you were young when you started PEDs. You're still very young.
Yeah.
God willing, there's a lot of life and a lot of bodybuilding career ahead. But I want you just to maybe share your thoughts, you know, positive, negative, indifferent, so that people that are watching, going to listen to this, maybe they can glean from your experience and maybe choose something different than they're thinking about, or what have you.
Yeah, so I have mixed feelings about it. I can't really give you like a straight answer. However, I can give you like my sides on both and why I would choose both. So basically, I'm one of the people who I very much believe that everything happens for a reason, and everything that you do in your life leads you to where you're supposed to be, like where you're actually supposed to be, like where God wants you to be. So, you know, that being said, I don't wish I would have changed anything. However, I have mixed feelings about it, because if I could go back, I wouldn't have torn my pec. Um, you know, I wouldn't have probably caused as much damage internally as I have. I mean, I'm healthy, really healthy now. We'll get into that in a minute, and I'm in great hands. But like, that being said, if I wouldn't have taken PEDs and I wouldn't have progressed the way I did, I probably wouldn't be where I am right now. I probably wouldn't have had the opportunities that I have right now. So I guess for the younger people out there, I mean, I'm sure they've heard this before, but push yourself as hard as you can until you've maxed your potential, and then you still push hard before you even think about it. Because I wouldn't suggest somebody just goes and gets on it, especially the way I did, where you just do it yourself and you trust the gym bro to help you out. So it's, if you're gonna do it, hire a coach. And I guarantee you, if they're a good coach, they're gonna make you wait until you're 18 anyways. And you know, wait as long as you can. You know, this is me trying to be a good person and explaining, like, it's just not smart to get on a young age. You're still growing. I'm still growing right now. I mean, technically, like, I could have still waited past this age. So I had a really amazing physique naturally, and by no means did I max out my natural potential. I just thought that I needed to do it to get to where I wanted to be, and I knew all the top dogs did it, and I just was young and stupid, and I just decided to pull the trigger. But to be honest, I don't regret it. You know, obviously when I was in the surgery, right before I went into surgery, I was sitting there, I was like, why did I take steroids? Because, you know, I literally had to have like a $70,000 surgery on my pec, and I only had to pay $9,000, but it was an expensive surgery. So, you know, if I wouldn't have done steroids, I wouldn't have bench 415, and then I wouldn't have torn my pec. So yeah, I definitely regret it sometimes, but, you know, like I said, if you don't you can't really go back and change anything because you wouldn't be where you are. You wouldn't have the opportunities that you've had. I wouldn't have met my girlfriend. I wouldn't have, you know, gotten fourth at nationals and motivated me. Like, it's, you know what I mean? Everything happens for a reason. And yeah, I don't regret it in the long run, but definitely be smart about your decision if you're watching this and you're younger.
Okay, one other quick question, just for guidance sake for people watching or listening. Now, you said, you know, hire a coach and things like that if you're thinking about taking PEDs. This is something I ask a lot of coaches, a lot of athletes that come on, because we're in this social media world where everybody looks like they have it all figured out and they look so good, and you know, the top coach and top dog, and a lot of it's just a smoke screen, a lot of it's just a bunch of nonsense. So and there are great coaches, like we're going to get into talking about your coach Cam, awesome guy. I've had a lot of great coaches on the podcast, but you know, just like all of us, we all have a starting point, right, Austin? And we don't know what we don't know. When you get on Instagram, like, you know, and you're looking, you know, scrolling through, like you don't know what you don't know. So what are your suggestions to find a good coach? And how do you know they're a good coach in terms of the PED side of things when you reach out to them and start asking them questions? If you can kind of just give us a little bit of your experience or knowledge on that.
Right. So I guess the best way to, so it takes a lot of being in the industry to really know who's good and who's not. I mean, I still don't really know who's good and who's not, because like you said, everything's just a smokescreen. So basically, like, you know, we all put on a persona. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, we all make it look like we're better than we are, because that's how we progress. But it's just a matter of if you're actually extrapolating the truth or not. And I feel like a lot of coaches do extrapolate the truth, and they say they've done things they haven't. They say they can do things that they don't have any clue how to do. So I guess the first thing you should do is write down a list of what your expectations are from a coach, and have that on paper, right? And then the first thing that you can do is, before wasting the coach's time, because you know, a lot of these top end coaches, they offer free consultations. I'm pretty sure Cameron does. I did a free consultation with them, and I know a couple of the people who did, because it's an investment. It's an investment for you and for them. Like, you're representing their brands. They want to make sure you're a good athlete for them. And then, you know, you're obviously hiring them and trusting them with your health, whether you're taking PEDs or not. Prepping for a show is not healthy. So there's a healthy and unhealthy way to do it. So I think it's an important thing to realize that if you're taking PEDs or not, it's still really good to look for a coach who prioritizes health above all other things. Because just because you're not taking PEDs doesn't mean you're not unhealthy on prep. You're getting to, you know, sub 10% body fat percentages, maybe sub 5%, depending on, most of the time, if you're not, you're not going to get there. But you really want to look for a coach that has your health at the, you know, the forefront of their thoughts. So write down the things that you're looking for, right? Are you willing to take PEDs or not? How far are you willing to push to you know, get what you want out of this sport? Do you even want to compete? You know what I mean? Are you just doing this to look good on social media? Like, all these things. Is health an option? Like, do you really care about your health? Because a lot of people, they're ready to just pull the trigger. And like, by means, there's a ton of coaches out there who are just willing to just say, hey, just take all these drugs. So really, like, figure out what you want and what you want out of a coach, because this is a long-term investment. I'm the first person to say that I've had several coaches, and you know, they've all been very nice people. However, I just did not see eye to eye with them. And you know, it's just a matter of knowing people in the industry, understanding how they do their job, and really finding what works for you. And like, that's really all I can say is, like, get on a consultation with them. Maybe reach out to their athletes at first before you actually set up a consultation with them. That way you're not wasting their time. Because a lot of the time, if you actually reach out to their athletes first and you talk to them about their experiences, you're going to have more insight onto, you know, what they can provide based on what the athletes say. And then you can reference those athletes when you're talking to that coach and say, I want this similar, you know, outcome. I saw this person have this transformation. That's what I'm looking for. That way the coach understands, like, you're serious about it. Like when you show your coach that you're serious about it, whether they're your coach or not, they're going to give you better results. And if they're not the right pick for you, if they're a good coach, they're going to refer you to somebody who can do that job better. So definitely reach out to athletes that the coach works with currently, write down what you're looking for, and then also set up a consultation with them. Whether it costs money or not, it's very important to talk to the coach, face to face or on the phone, and really, really understand what they can provide you and make sure it's a good fit before you start dropping money into it. Because coach bouncing is not a good thing in the sport. And it's just, I think it's very important to find a good coach for you as soon as possible.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Okay, let's get back into bodybuilding talk here. And then we'll get to your current coach, Cam, a little bit down the road. So 18 years old, you do your first competition, you have a great experience. Where did bodybuilding take you at that point or after that point?
I was broke. So and like I did that show and I was like, I literally had negative money in my account. It was so bad. Like I actually, believe it or not, I actually had this, like I was so into the sport, I just didn't make any money. There's no money in Reading. There's no money in Reading to make any money. This is just like not at a young age. So I literally I had this Venmo card, and I knew that it was a bank to bank transfer when it took money out of my bank. So I knew that if I needed to purchase anything, and I didn't have the money, I could use it as a credit card because I would pay it and then it would take 3 days for it to take out of my checking account. And then if I somehow made money within 3 days, I could put it into my checking account and I'd be fine. So I knew that if I had to make a purchase for bodybuilding, I could technically do it through my Venmo card. So I literally paid for my pictures for the show with that card, knowing that I only had $20 in the account. It was like $100 and something for pictures. So I was like negative like 110 or 120 after the show. So I literally didn't have any money. I actually owed money. So I was like, what do I do from here? I just chill. I just chill. I build on the muscle groups that I need to build on. I get a better job so I can afford it. And that's when I was like, I need to online train. Like, what am I doing? Like, I could make twice the money if I work this lifeguarding job and I do online training. Like, what? So basically, a couple months down the road, I quit the lifeguarding job. I ended up working construction. That pays really well. However, there's a trade-off, and you're tired and you don't have any time for the gym. And when you go to the gym, you're falling asleep when you're working out because you're so tired. It doesn't matter what pre-workout you take, you're going to be falling asleep because you're so tired. So it paid really well. I saved a lot of money doing that. I did that for like 6 months, and then I just was done. I couldn't do it anymore. I just I was drifting too far away from bodybuilding. And then I decided to get a job at a physical therapy clinic because it was a full-time job. They paid like $18 an hour, which is really good. And I was just like the aide, not like a PT aide because you have to go to school for that. I was just like the PT aide's aide. So I would just walk around and I would bring equipment into a room when they needed it. I would, move clients around if they were disabled and stuff like that. It was a great job. I loved it. And it actually taught me a lot about, making sure you prioritize recovery. It taught me a lot about how different muscle groups work. And it made me even more interested in personal training. So after that, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go get a job as an in-person personal trainer. And I'm like, everybody was shitting on it. They were like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. But I'm so glad I did it. I went and I got an in-person personal training job. And I think I did that for like 5 or 6 months. And I was just like, I made them bank. Like, this was the first personal trainer they ever had there. So it's like, you have all these older people who are looking to just like maintain or like feel good. And like, I actually really cared. Like, I actually wasn't one of those personal trainers who was like, yeah, we'll just work out once a week and you just pay this price or whatever. Like, I was like, I'll write you a diet plan. Just don't tell them. I'll write you a workout plan for the days that we're not together. Don't tell them because they'll get me in trouble. And I wrote all these clients workout and diet plans for the days that we weren't training. Like I said, I wasn't in a very wealthy town at all. So there wasn't any money. So the money that they were spending on personal training was all their extra money they had. So I was like, if I can offer these people diet plans and workout plans, and they're going to keep coming back, and I'm going to keep making commission every month. So that's how I ended up making a pretty good amount of money. And I still had the money saved from my construction. And then I had money saved. It wasn't a ton because I was still living off of it. But basically, I ended up doing my second show. I prepped myself because I had such a bad experience with my last coach. I ended up prepping myself. And I think that was like a year later. I did Sacramento Championships. A great show. I think it was Spectrum Fitness Productions. It's an amazing show. They put on a great show. I actually had this older guy at the gym that he was pushing me to do the show, and I was like, no, it's 6 weeks away. I was like, I'm not going to be ready in time. He's like, dude, you have insane genetics, you should just cut for it and try to do it. So I cut for it, I did it, and I got fifth place again for the 6 week prep. So I'm like, I can't really complain about that. And at this point, you can see I wasn't really taking bodybuilding like seriously. I was just like, I have a good physique, I can monetize on this. But every show that I did, whether I placed well or not, like I have a good enough physique to where people are like, whoa, he knows what he's doing. And again, that comes back to like that smoke screen you were talking about. Like I wasn't flaunting it, but I was definitely monetizing on it with like online training and stuff. So then rolls a year and a half goes by, and then rolls around 2020. And let me tell you right now, bro, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to get anything like restricted on here, but that messed me up. 2020 was a rough year for me. I was in a very toxic relationship. I was struggling for money, and my job just like let everybody go for like 6 months. I was working at a car wash managing it. And I just was like, bro, I don't know what to do. All the gyms closed. I couldn't train anybody in person. And I wasn't ever doing online training at that point. All the online plans that I made were for the people that were at my last personal training gig. And I kind of stopped doing that when I did the Rose Center and stuff like that. So I was like, this is my chance to get back into online training and like, in-person training and switch it to online. So I literally didn't have any money. My ex wasn't helping me with rent or anything, so I was paying like $1,000 a month in rent, and like I was somehow making the money. So basically, I was just like, I really need to figure out a way to make this work so I'm not stressed, because you can't bodybuild when you're stressed like that. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna do a competition. So I did this. I still do them. I literally just advertised it like 2 days ago. So I did this New Year's competition, and actually it was a summer shred competition, and then I did a New Year's competition. And between the two, I got like 80 clients, like sign up to within both of them. And then I had like a 10 to 15% conversion rate to like actual clients. So it was like $100 for the first one for like 2 months, and which is not a lot of money, but when you need money, and you can provide them a great service. So if I can make enough money now to last me 2 months, and then 2 months down the road when the plan's over, somehow I can make that money work for that time, and then they sign back up, like a percentage of them sign back up, then I'd be fine technically. So basically I did that competition. I had like a 15% conversion rate to actual clients, which is pretty good from those competitions. Like most of the time they're just like, okay, I'll sign up for the next competition. And they do the competition because they can't afford regular coaching. So, I made my coaching affordable. I think it was like $100 for diet and nutrition and workouts at the time. But I had like 10 clients. So I was making $1,000 a month. And that was enough for me to somehow live. I moved back in with my parents after that lease was over, and I wasn't paying any rent. So all that $1,000 was going towards my car, my insurance, my phone bill, and then I had like $200 or $300 left over. So I made it work. And then I decided I was going down a dark path. Me and my ex broke up, and I was very depressed and shit like that. And then I was just like going down a dark path, going to bars, partying, all this stuff. And then I was like, is this really the life I want to live? Like, did I really tear my pec, come back, do a show, do another show, sacrifice all these relationships when I was younger with like my family to just like throw it all in the trash to go out and get drunk every night? I'm like, no, that's not what I did. So like out of nowhere, I just snapped out of it. And I was like, screw this. And basically a couple of the friends I still hung out with. And one of the friends lived in Chico, and her mom was a bodybuilder. So I like drove to Chico one day, and I've never been to her house before. I drive there. This is the craziest story. Actually, it was actually a date. So it was a Tinder date. So I actually like drove to her house, bro. And I get there, and her mom was a bodybuilder. And I was like, what the fuck? This is like the most coincidental thing ever. Like her mom was a bodybuilder, and I was like, no offense, but like screw the girl. I want to talk about bodybuilding. This is what I care about. I'm like, let's talk about bodybuilding. She's like a pro, and she's a master's pro, and like, oh, she's gonna kill me if she sees this figure. And basically, she's like, I'm gonna hook you up with a coach. You're gonna do this Legion Sports Fest show, and you're gonna do well. And I'm like, all right. So I went on this date, and I ended up getting a freaking like an amazing coach out of it. I ended up winning Legions. It was a 7-week prep. So we prepped in 7 weeks, and I swept the whole show. And then I was like, oh, let's go. This is it. And then I got sponsored by ProSups. They hit me up like 2 months. Well, I actually hit them up, and then they hit me back up 2 months later. I signed with them, and now I have extra money coming in. So I'm like, all right, we can make this work. So it all paid off. And then I won that show. And then like 6 months, no, like 8 months or 9 months later, I did Junior USA's, which was my first national show. I got 6th place or 7th place. I think it was like, I got 1st place in second call out. So it was like 5th or 6th place in my class. And then I was like, wow, I really need to put on some size. Like this is different. Like national shows, bro, national shows are no joke. So I was like, I need to put on some more size. So me and that coach did 2 shows together. And then it wasn't working out with me and him. He's a great guy, nothing against him, but it just wasn't working out with him. So I hired Kim Odo from Body Bio. He does a lot of bikini girls and stuff like that. But I knew he prioritized health, and my health was not in check then. So I was like, I need to get healthy. I want to hire a coach who cares about my health. And he did just that. He got me extremely healthy. Prepped me for nationals on less than 250 milligrams of total gear a week. And 6 months later, we did nationals last December. Not this time, but last December. And I got 4th in my class. So, and I was taking less than 250 milligrams of stuff. So it was definitely a confidence boost there. And then that's when I actually met my girlfriend. I met my girlfriend at nationals. And the rest is history from there. I mean, she's working with Cameron, and then me and Cameron just saw eye to eye on everything. And I'm just like, dude, let's freaking pull the trigger on this. And I'm like, I got a coach who would push me hard, but also keep my health in balance, like in check. And then, I just see myself like progressing so much this off season. And I'm just so grateful that, everything lined up the way it did. And like, that comes back to that other question you asked me, like, you can't change anything in the past and expect you to be where you are. Cause like, it could be one person that you met. Like if I wouldn't have gone through everything I did, I would have never gone to that girl's house and met that mom who introduced me to Justin, that my old coach. And I would have never won Legions. I would have never done it. I probably would have still been partying. Like, who knows? So it's like, everything happens for a reason. And that's just why life's so crazy. And I'm just so fortunate to be where I am right now with like the coach that I have, the support system that I have, living in Florida now from California. So yeah, it's all been amazing, honestly.
Love it, man. That's some good stuff. Now, I think it's important, like kind of what you're just to kind of piggyback off what you're saying, Austin. I heard this from somebody. I love this quote, and he just said, "You can't lose if you don't quit." And I just saw somebody that I had on the podcast recently. I think it was a friend or a coworker. From what I gathered on the Instagram story that he posted, they committed suicide. Okay, and I think that's just something for all of us to take a step back and think about. Like, we all have dark days, we all have hard times. Like, that's a part of the human experience. We're gonna have hard times. We're gonna have difficult days. We're gonna have dark days. Like, we struggle with anxiety. We all struggle with depression. We all have different things that we struggle with. That's a part of being human. And if we can realize that, like, hey, every day is not going to go perfect. Every day is not going to be maybe what we thought it was going to be. Every prep isn't going to go as planned, as most of us who compete in bodybuilding know. But we have to realize if we don't quit, we can't lose. And we have to just continue to push forward no matter what we're feeling, no matter what our emotions are, no matter what we're going through. There's always light at the end of the tunnel, and there is a purpose for every breath that we take on this earth. So I love that. That's super cool. Now, I'm very curious, and maybe some of the people listening and watching are wondering the same thing. You said that you met your current girlfriend at Nationals last year. How did that unfold?
Yeah. So Yeah, so basically, um, we it was actually a crazy story. So,
Okay, well, you got a lot of crazy stories, so we're ready, man. Let's go.
right. So basically, I'm in my hotel room, right? It's the day before I get spray tan. So not that night, but the next night is my first spray tan. So it's like what 2 or 3 days off from the show. So like yeah, 2 days off from the show, like one day, and then the show's the next day. So it's that night, and I have a photo shoot set up. So I have my shirt off. It's supposed to be like thirst traps, right? Like thirst traps, like shirt off, pants on, and my photographer comes up to the room and he brought two girls with him, Rachel Daniels and Emily, my girlfriend. And they just walk in, and I already knew Rachel and I knew my photographer, obviously, but I saw Emily and I'm like, bro, I'm like, what the fuck? And I was so shy. Like I said, I'm still like introverted and stuff like that. So I was just like, whew. And I was like trying to like keep my composure. I'm have my shirt off, bro. And she's just like trying not to look at me. And like I was like, this girl has to have a boyfriend. Like she has to have a boyfriend. There's no way she's just like a 12 walking around here like without a boyfriend, you know? And so she goes and sits around the corner in my hotel room at the on like this little seat around the corner, so she could barely see me. Like, and it was funny because I was doing poses and I was doing like these poses, and I think I was doing like a back double and stuff. And she was just like, I kept seeing her look at me, and I kept looking at her, and it was just like so awkward. And then before she left, I was like, "What was your name again?" I told her her name, and I was like gonna give her a hug, and I was like, and then I just gave her a hug. It was so awkward. So definitely like definitely something there. Um, I'm not sure who messaged who first, but it was within like 3 or 4 minutes. Like one of us messaged each other, and then we were just like by each other's sides the entire time. I was supposed to be relaxing for my show, and like I was up on a parking deck with her doing a photo shoot with like for her and with that photographer, and I was just walking around before the show. I was like, I didn't even think about the show. I was there for a show, and I was just like walking around with her, and I was like, how you doing, like blah blah blah, and I was just like on my feet, which you're obviously not supposed to be. um and it was just crazy. The whole show is such a good experience, man. Like, um, I just felt so like comfortable on stage, and like I don't know, like she just made me super relaxed and super calm, and it's just like pretty cool feeling, to be honest. And I've never really felt that, so I was definitely like, I need to run with this. So Nationals ends. Keep in mind, I don't live in Florida, so we just like spent this like 2 or 3 days together, and then my family and I, because they were watching me do the competition, we went to Disney World because it's in Orlando as well. And after that, I didn't know she lived in Tampa, right? I didn't know she lives in Tampa. So I'm in Orlando with my family at Disney World, and the day that we leave, I was like, I think we both figured out that we were going to go to the gym together and then go get food afterwards before I left. So she's like, I'll be there in the morning. And she didn't tell me that she lived like an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes away. So this girl literally drives an hour and 20 minutes for a guy that she just met and picks me up. We go to the gym. She trains like a badass. Like, I'm just like, holy shit, dude, this girl is like, she's an animal in the gym. Like, I was doing like lat pull downs and my form was so shitty. And she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, what? And like, that's like your masculinity, bro. Like she's messing with your like your lat pull down form. And I was just like, I don't know, I'm just doing lat pull downs. And she's like, why don't you just try to actually do them this way? And like showed me, and I was just like very humbled. I'd like dropped the stack by like half the weight. So she pretty much showed me how to work out. And then and then after that, like we said bye to each other. We went on like a little date and then said bye to each other. And then I flew back I lived in Reno at the time. So I actually moved from California to Reno, and I lived in Reno for like a year before I moved here. And then um, I came to visit her. I flew all the way to Florida to visit her for like a week, and it was just like a great time. We just got along super well, and I'm like, I'm gonna move here, so I signed a lease when I was here, and then I moved.
That
Within
is a
like
great story, man.
5 months, within 4 months of meeting her, I just moved here. So I was just like, it when you know it.
Right. Cool,
And
man.
now
Love it. Okay, now fourth place at nationals in 2021. So when and then you said your girlfriend, was working with Cam Cheek, and that's kind of how you got introduced to him, correct? Austin?
Last show.
Okay. So then talk about when did you and Cam start working together? And then what was kind of the game plan after you guys kind of hooked up? And what was your game plan for this year?
So we started talking about working together end of January, I believe. And then I pulled the trigger, I believe, I think it was halfway through February of this year. So we've been working together for what, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. We've been working together for like 9.5 months. And it's been crazy. I put more muscle on and more size on in this 9.5 months than I have like in the last like 3 years. So it's been nuts. Has it been easy? No. Fuck no, it's not been easy. It's been expensive, if I'm being honest. It's been rough. I've been having to, okay, that's a whole nother conversation I'll have in a minute. But like basically we met in January. I guess he had been following me on social media since Junior USA's because he wanted me on as a client since Junior USA's. But he never talked to me because he's not the type of dude to reach out. He wants you to reach out first. And then my girlfriend was like, dude, he wants you on the team. Like, he wants you on the team. He's telling me, he's begging me to get you on the team. And I was like, all right, I'll send this guy a message because I wanted somebody who was going to push me more. I loved Kim. Kim was such an amazing dude. He's just like, he's like this old dude. He just cares about everybody and he just cares about health and he wants to make sure everybody succeeds. So I'm forever grateful for everything he did for me. And if anything, he boosted my ego so much by putting me on stage on that little of gear and placing fourth, like blew my mind. And it just motivated me to do better. So very, very grateful for him. However, Cameron and I we work really well together. I clash with his ideas sometimes, but like at the end of the day, he's my coach and I hire him. And I think it's a learning lesson for the athlete when you hire a coach. If you're not willing to listen to people who know more than you, then you're never going to grow. So it's a humbling experience. And sometimes the answers that most of the time, the answers that I hear when I ask questions aren't what I want to hear. And they usually cost a lot of money, but that's why I've been able to see this progress that I have. And that's why my health is the best it's ever been. And I feel amazing right now. So it's just like, I'm super excited, super grateful that I met him. And yeah, we met we didn't meet until like later on, but I started working with him mid-February of this year.
Okay. Now, so what's kind of been the game plan? Well, actually, let's talk about your health a little bit because I think that's kind of a big part of how Cam has been helping you, and then that's kind of parlaying into your growth and your quote unquote gains, right? So, talk about what you talked about on your YouTube channel about you thought you had Hashimoto's. And just walk us kind of through that because not everybody that's watching and listening to this is gonna watch your YouTube video, and I think it's some very pertinent information. So just walk us through that, and then talk about kind of the leaky gut and all of that process, please.
Yeah. So basically, this is why it's so important that I touch on this, is because, and that's so important why you brought this up, is because I didn't feel bad. Like I didn't feel like I had a problem. That's the thing, and that's what a lot of these people don't understand is like, if you're pushing, not even if you're pushing drugs, like it has nothing to really do with the drugs. Like you can be unhealthy and not know it. Like you can have problems that are hindering you from seeing progress and you don't even know it. They're just like in your blood work. It's something that you've been dealing with for so long, or your body just doesn't respond poorly to it. It's just like something that's hindering you and you have no idea. So if you don't get routine lab work, if you don't prioritize your health, like Cameron Cheek stresses to me, then you're really not going to know your body enough to expect the results that you want, because you can't ask your body to produce results but not give your body what it needs. That doesn't make any sense. So basically, what we did, it's been a journey, man. Like it's been expensive. It's been hard, but like basically mid-February, we didn't actually get lab work for a while. He wanted me to, I think I was on like 250 tests with Kim, because he had me reversing and I was amazing reverse. I felt great. 250 tests with him. And then we dropped it to 150 when I started working with Cam. And in my head, I'm like, damn, Cam gets guys jacked. I'm like, I'm dropping doses. I'm like, what's going on? But he cares about your health. And he knows that if he drops doses now, we can push doses later. So basically we dropped to 150 test. We were running a little bit of GH, like think like 2 units of GH, and then we just held that for like 4 months, all the way until like mid-May, I think, early mid-May. So it was like March, April, it was like 2.5 months. Actually, it's not 4 months, 2.5 months. We ran that test through the beginning of July though, because I started getting lab work in the beginning of May. So basically I went and I got my first lab work done, came back, my TSH, my thyroid stimulating hormone, was like 10.1, and it's the max it's supposed to be is like 4.5 on a guide, depending on which reference range your lab has. um However, mine was more than double the reference range, which means it can mean anything. It can mean that your thyroid's just not working as well as it should, and that's why you're holding more fat, you're bloated, stuff like that. It could mean that you have Hashimoto's disease, where it's like your thyroid could be at risk of not working as well in the future. You could just your T3, T4 production could be messed up. I'm not a huge, like, I don't know a ton about it, so I don't want to get on here and try to educate, but it means something with your thyroid's going on because it's your thyroid stimulating hormone. And it could be strictly your thyroid, but most likely everything that I've seen and everything that I've gone through personally and other people I've talked to, it has something to do with other parts of your body, other organs that aren't either getting nutrition right, aren't working right. And that's why your thyroid stimulating hormone is so high. So we got that lab work done. And that's when we realized that we needed to prioritize that ASAP before we got on a cycle. So we kept that, like I said, we kept that 150 cruise, 2 units of GH through like another month and a half. And I got like 2 or 3 lab works done within that 1.5 month time span. I think it was every 3 or 4 weeks we got lab work for like a month and a half or 2 months. So it shows you like it's not cheap. Like those were like $350 blood panels like every single time. So I spent the original one, another one, and then another one, and then that's when I was like, okay, I personally feel okay enough to tell my coach that I want to push, because I think that's important on here, is that we ran a cycle, but he did not give me the green flag. I want to get on here and say that, because I don't want that to come back to him, because I'm going to talk about where my markers were later. He didn't want to push a cycle. I decided I wanted to, because I had gone so long without pushing one, and I knew that I felt okay enough to do it. So I actually pretty much told him, I'm like, dude, I want to run a cycle. Like, I don't care what you think. Like, I want to run a cycle. And he's like, all right, sounds good. And that's why I wasn't super vocal about me starting a cycle back then, because I didn't want it to come back to him, because it was my choice. However, my TSH did drop between those lab works. We started taking liver from Revive. We started taking thyroid from Revive. And that was it. That's all we took for that. I was taking injectable L-glutathione. I was taking that as well, and all those dropped my TSH down to, I think it was like 8.1. So it went down like 2 points, which is pretty significant. That means it's now less than 2 times the reference range, which is a lot better than more than 2 times the reference range. However, it's not anywhere close to the reference range. So obviously there's something else still going on, and I knew that, but I was ready to push. I wanted to push. I've been working my ass off with like little return. We were actually getting pretty big on that cruise just from changing my training and my eating. I was eating probably 2,000 calories more than I'm used to on an off season, and I just blew up. I put like 4.5 inches on my back measurement now since I started working with him. So my chest around my back gained 4.5 inches, and my waist is actually smaller than when I started working with him. So my legs have put on about 1.5 inches, and my arms have put on about 1.5 inches. And my shoulders have kind of stayed the same. My shoulders are hard to grow, but basically you don't need to blast drugs year round to grow, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So basically we got lab work done. We thought we might have, after that cycle ended, sorry. So that was, July, August, September, October. And then we ended the cycle at the end of October, like halfway through the October, I think, is when we ended the cycle. So I've been off for like a month and a half now. I feel great. Basically, we got lab work done about 2 weeks after coming off cycle, and it came back, and my TSH was 9.6, so it was almost back to where it was. And that's when we decided to have a serious conversation about what we need to do to fix this, because obviously it's something that's out of my control and I need to fix it. And the first thing that went through my head, and I want to say this because it's very important to people who are listening. The first thing that I thought was, I don't know if I even want to address this because it's going to be too expensive. That's the first thing that went through my head. And I think this is a lot of the reason why people don't address their health is because they think it's going to be expensive. And I think they think it's going to hinder their progress. And by no means has it done either. As it has not broken the bank account and has not hindered progress. And all the money that I have spent on this lab work has paid off tenfold now. So basically, we ran a thyroid test, the thyroid antibody test, and basically, the higher the antibodies, the more likely you are to have Hashimoto's disease or something. So, like I said, I'm not super educated on that stuff. That's why I have a coach. But basically, they came back and they were like less than 1. So it was like perfect. Like, I didn't have Hashimoto's, so we knew we could cross that off, which was a huge relief for me because if you guys know, if you have Hashimoto's bad enough, you need to actually take like Synthroid, which is a mix of T3 and T4, or you need to take T4 or T3. Like I said, I'm not super knowledgeable about it, but I do know that I would have needed to take something probably year round from then on to be able to keep a relatively lean body composition on the off season and prep enough and get lean enough to do a show. So I'm sure these are all byproducts of the drugs that I've taken in the past and the preps that I put myself through. However, we need to address it. So we decided to run this concoction. I also want to shout out Cam here because I was getting very impatient with the whole process because I was just like, you don't know what's going on with your body. You're paying a coach every month and you feel like they're saying like, let's keep things the same. Let's keep things the same. Let's keep things the same. But sometimes it's just what you need to be told. Sometimes like you just need to keep things the same. I think there's this quote and it says like, not all change is progress, but all progress is change. So basically what that means is sometimes you don't need to change things to see progress. Sometimes you just need to let everything progress. You need to let stuff stay. And that's the one thing that I've learned with Cam. So I trusted him. I trusted his gut instinct. He actually got on a call with somebody who was more knowledgeable about him than gut health, which I completely respect because I like that a coach is able to like humble himself and reach out to help for help on something he doesn't understand. And that's something that Cameron's very good at. Sometimes he'll reach to his close friends. He's reached out to Matt Jansen a couple times for me and like asked him questions. So it's like, I respect that a lot. And he came back and he's like, this is what we're going to do. He gave me this concoction of like a shake that I'm going to drink in the morning. They can go watch my YouTube video. I'll explain it on here too. So it's aloe vera juice. It's 3 ounces of aloe vera juice, just straight aloe vera juice, not like the drinks, just like the juice. And then it's 15 grams of glutamine, 1 gram of inositol powder. And then the last thing is 3 capsules of zinc carnosine. I think it's carnosine. And I've been taking that in the morning, 15 minutes before my first meal, 15 minutes before my last meal at night. So 2 times a day, I've been taking that for a week and a half, almost 2 weeks now. And I feel absolutely amazing. My check-in pictures this morning were insane. My waist is like sucked in. All the inflammation in my body almost has gone down. And I fixed it with like a $20. It cost me $20 for all these products at Vitamin Shop, and it fixed my health. So it wasn't, I didn't have to go see a doctor. I didn't have to pay for some super expensive medical script. I didn't have to do all these things that I thought I was going to have to do. Sometimes you just need to address the problem and put money aside and put your thoughts aside and realize that it's your health. And that without that, you're not going to be able to do anything because if you're not alive, you're not well, you're not going to be able to do anything you want. So that's pretty much where I am with that. And that's where my health stands. And I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot this year.
Now, just to make sure that we're kind of clarifying everything here. Now, on your YouTube channel, you talked about that you have leaky gut. That's kind of what you guys have pinpointed. Is that correct?
Sorry, I forgot to mention that. So yeah, basically we don't have Hashimoto's. We figured that out by doing the thyroid antibody test, and the antibodies came back at almost 0. So we don't have any antibodies, which means we're not fighting anything off there. So no Hashimoto's. We decided that we have leaky gut. There was a few deciding factors on that. I'm not going to get on here and say them because I don't really remember what they were. But he had a very credible source that he was working with tell me that it was leaky gut. And I mean, I'm 99.9% sure that was the problem because I'm losing inflammation like crazy. So basically, to sum up leaky gut, I've done a little bit of research on it, and I'll kind of spew it out the best I can for those who don't know. It's more so like there's like bacteria lining the inside of your gut, and basically when there's not enough, I think, good bacteria in there, I think it like falls through. Like the thing about the bacteria like this, you can see pictures online if you look it up, and like it falls through if you don't have enough good bacteria, I think is the problem. So I think by taking this concoction, and I'm also taking a probiotic. Sorry, I'm taking a probiotic by Revive as well. So I wanted to mention that, but it's supposedly going to restore the good bacteria, get rid of the bad bacteria, and allow my gut to function at 100% like it's supposed to. My energy levels have gone up. My bloating has gone down. Little personal, but it needs to be talked about. My bowel movements, they're like my stools, they're like hardening up, which they weren't for a long time, and I just kind of ignored it. And then last thing, my cortisol levels have dropped. Like I don't know it. I haven't looked at it like on paper, but I can feel like I'm just I'm so relaxed. Like I'm not stressed. I had like little patches of like rashes breaking out, and that's from the leaky gut. Those have gone down. And I feel overall great. So like I said, I can't stress this enough. The biggest thing they can get out of this, if they're watching this, is, you know, don't put aside your health because of thinking it's going to hinder your progress. Don't put your health aside because you think it's going to break the bank. You need to address it. And you have people that love you around you that if you need help, you can reach out to them. Like I promise you, you can figure out a way to make it work if it does cost money, but you're not going to be able to do this sport if you have poor health.
Amen, man. Awesome. Okay, we're gonna start wrapping things up now. Now that you and Cam are really focused on your health, things are starting to kind of course correct in terms of your health. What are you guys thinking? What have you guys discussed? Kind of what is the competition plans moving forward? If you don't mind sharing that with us, Austin.
Yeah, so I would share it if I knew. I'm gonna him under the bus a little bit because I can have some fun with this. He's a great coach, but man, like he makes you work for it. He makes you work for it. He wants to put his athletes on stage looking the best they can, and that's what it comes down to, right? So the athlete's always going to have a biased opinion on when they want to step on stage. The coach is going to have an unbiased opinion of when they step on stage. So what I'm learning, and what's been very hard to learn, and I'm still trying to learn it, is to just trust your coach. Your coach knows. If you trust your coach enough with your health, as I do, he knows when you're going to be ready to step on stage. Cam and I were talking at dinner the other night after Shelby won nationals, not nationals, her national show. Nationals. Yeah, she won nationals. She won wellness. Yeah, I got her pro card, swept the whole show. Absolutely nuts. We were actually talking, and he's like, he just has this gut instinct, and he's had it with my girlfriend when she went pro. He had it with JT. He had it with Shelby. He has this gut instinct, and I feel like all coaches just kind of like they're put on this world for that purpose. Like they just know when you're going to be ready, and it's very hard for me to humble myself enough to realize that he is gonna be right when it comes to this because he's put people on stage, he's dealt with different body types, he knows how to do this right. So I don't know when I'm gonna be able to step on stage 100%, and I've already trusted him with so much now that I trust him with the decision of picking which show I'm gonna do, even though I like to give him shit about it here and there. I'll say I want to do USAs, I want to do USAs. He's like, too soon. He's like, too soon. I'm like, God, dude. I'm like, when are we gonna compete? But this is the longest I've ever taken off competing, so I'm really biased. I think that I could do USAs, but he thinks I should do nationals. So I don't know yet. But how cool would that be if I had a 2-year difference on a national stage and I swept the whole show? Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
And you know what? That I think we see this like with obviously Cam just. I know it's been a work in progress, but they just announced that Cam is now with Camp Jansen. And if you look at Matt Jansen and how he coaches his athletes, it's all about the process. Yes. Brett Wilkin is the perfect example. Turned pro at Classic Physique, competed IFBB Pro 212. Now he's open men's. He just won his first open men's competition. He's qualified for the 2023 Mr. Olympia, right? And it's this process. And if you can trust the process, because you trust your coach, like you're talking about. These coaches that are elite, Cam is elite, obviously Matt Jansen is elite. You're gonna get what you want at the end of the day, and that's, you know, that pro card, and continue to move your bodybuilding career forward. So I think that's just, I think it's great. We're kind of getting to see this like in the moment where you're kind of like, man, like I want to compete, but I know that Cam knows what he's doing. It's good, right?
It's so frustrating, bro. Like, it's so
But it's
frustrating.
good,
Yeah.
Austin. It's good for everybody that's watching and listening to this to hear this and to see this, because this is real life, and I think we see it way too often where people are competing too much. Their health sucks, and then their body just like says no more, and then they're out of the sport, right?
100%, man. Like, it's hard, but at the same time, it's like, how shitty would it be to do that prep, get on stage, and not get your pro card, or get your pro card but get second place? Bro, that was like, I know I'm 100% with 100% certainty when he puts me on stage, I'm at least gonna get first place in my class to get my pro card, and I don't ever want to be that person who gets second place in my class. I I mean, there could be some freak that shows up. If it happens, it happens. But I will try my best, and I know Cameron will do his best to make sure that I am not that person. And I'm not trying to diss anybody if they did that, but like, I don't want to be the guy who got second place. I want to be the guy with the overall trophy at the end with a pro card that won nationals, the most prestigious national show. Also, shout out to Lucas, who just won nationals. He is insane. We trained the other day together, like 2 weeks out, and he had like 30 pounds to lose before he stepped on stage, and he lost it in like a week and a half. So that's a topic you can bring up with him for sure. I know it's not about me, but definitely bring that up with him. He lost like 30 pounds in a week and a half.
I reached out to him, and I know those guys are getting all kinds of DMs and stuff, and hopefully I'll be able to get him on. And if I remember, I'll definitely bring that. That's crazy. Okay. Oh,
Too,
go
so.
for it, Austin. What's up?
No, I said I'll reach out to him too for you.
Oh, okay, cool. That'd be great. Okay, now I want to let's finish up kind of talking about training. You said that Cam, well, first of all, your girlfriend kind of started to help you maybe adjust your training a little bit, but then Cam has kind of like changed your training. You said so. How has your training changed? And then we'll head for that finish line.
Yeah, so basically, I do my own training now. However, Cam introduced me to his style of training, which it's just, he doesn't have like a style of training. It's just, he introduced me to a couple key movements that have brought my back up. And if you looked at my pictures and you saw my critiques, my back was very small last year. It's the one thing I needed to bring up. Like, my legs are huge. My waist is tiny. My everything else looks pretty good. We brought everything up a lot. Like, I weigh 30 pounds more than I did when I started with Cam at a better body composition. So, I mean, we definitely made huge improvements, but the back, man, he showed me a couple key movements, and I'm actually going to share them on here. I actually have a backy book. If you guys want to get these movements, I'm going to advertise myself on here. So if you guys want to get these movements, I have a backy book. It's $14.99, and it's going to teach you everything that I pretty much learned, everything that Cam kind of taught me, and that I kind of critiqued on my own and like adjusted. That way it works for me. You guys can learn how to do everything that I've done for my back to grow my back 4.5 inches, this measurement. So basically, single arm pull downs, game changer, really making sure you just humble yourself with the weight. Don't go super heavy, keeping the elbow in close to the body, pulling, keeping the rib cage down, making sure you have complete control of the weight, allowing the elbow to go back as far as you can, squeezing. The whole point of lat training, right, is to get the top of the lat insertion as close to the bottom of the lat insertion as possible. That's how you train the muscle. So any movements that are going to make those 2 points closer to each other, that's going to be golden. So those were a game changer for me. Also, I started doing bent over rows again, slow bent over rows. Game changer. Keeping my elbows in on those ones as well. Making sure that I'm loading through the hamstrings and not through the knees. The other thing is the T-bar rows, assisted T-bar rows. Game changer. Like the Terry's right in here. Game changer for those, creating the width up top. But those are the 3 movements that I kind of took from Cam's training, and I was like, all right, I need to do these myself. And then I kind of gave myself a twist on them. But the last few months I've been doing my own training. I just like doing my own training. I've always liked doing my own training. So
Perfect. Are you getting a call because you froze up on us, Austin?
no, you froze up on me too.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll keep going here because we're almost done. But okay. I want to ask you, what are your biggest gym pet peeves?
Biggest gym pet peeves. All right. The first one has to be, oh, you came back. You're back to life. Um, so my first gym pet peeve is obviously when people don't put away the weights. I do my best to put away the weights. Sometimes I'll have bad days where I forget to. But that's everybody. Like when you have a leg day and you freaking kill yourself and you're puking, like sometimes you forget to put your weights away. And sometimes my girlfriend will put them away for me, and I respect her for that. But like, try to put them away. The second thing is, don't bother me when I'm in the middle of like working out. Like, it drives me nuts when people walk up and they just like bother me. Like, I love you guys, but just like don't come up and bother me while I'm working out. It's like my time.
Right. Got it. Okay. What do you feel like up to this point, Austin, bodybuilding has taught you, or what has bodybuilding given you?
I think I've learned just mental discipline and knowing that something now isn't worth the long-term rewards. Don't give up something for now. Don't settle for something now when you could work for something long-term.
Perfect, man. Okay, dude. I want to say again, just thank you, Austin, for coming on, sharing your bodybuilding story, sharing your life story, man. Before I do a quick outro and I let you go, why don't you give us any final thoughts, any final words? Where can we get that back ebook? Give us your Instagram, sponsor shout outs, anything you want to leave with us, and then I'll do a quick outro. So, platform's yours, man.
Yeah, man. So I'm sponsored by ProSup. Super grateful for them. Yeah, they recognized me when nobody did. You can get the back ebook at www.aspfit.com. Definitely going to plug that one. I do online coaching as well. It's very affordable, so check that out. And then lastly, my Instagram is Austin_Espy_. And I will be competing next year, so definitely follow me to check me out. And then my YouTube is Austin Espy, at Austin Espy.
Awesome, man. Okay, dude. Really appreciate your time. Okay, Austin.
All right. Thank you so much, bro. I appreciate it.
Yep, you're welcome. All of you who are tuning into this episode of Behind the Muscle podcast, I just want to say thank you so very much. I appreciate you. I value you. And as I always say, and will continue to say, if it weren't for all of you, the podcast simply would not exist. So thank you so much for all of your continued support. If you have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button in regards to BTM on YouTube. Also, take this episode with Austin, share it on your Instagram stories. Make sure you tag Austin. Go ahead and tag his coach, Cam Cheek, and then also tag Behind the Muscle podcast so that we know you listened specifically to this episode and found great value in it, in which I know you did. And then finally, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.